Hey, good morning, friends. Mark Holmes, of course, here with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo and Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I can't thank you guys enough for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, this literally does not work. So let's get open for business. Let's wake up those football gods. Wake up there, guys. You know, every morning I sit down here, off season, during the season, rain, sleet, snow, doesn't matter. I literally sit down here and I used to call this, and it still is, the Don't Sleep on the Dallas Cowboys report, because you literally can't sleep on the Dallas Cowboys because there's always something going on with the Cowboys. Let's be clear. Here it is. The season's been over for us for a couple of weeks, and literally the news just does not stop. We fired our defense coordinator. We brought in a new guy. We've seen all the different things that are going on. We have, of course, the Dak Prescott watch. Is he going to be as good as he was before or better? Are they going to go ahead and franchise tag him? Are they going to have a long-term deal? What kind of team are we going to have? What kind of changes? And so forth. Yesterday, I saw an article, and I kind of touched on this a little bit yesterday morning because I was talking about our salary cap situation, where there's tough decisions that are going to need to be made about the team and the makeup of our team going forward. We currently have $15 million of salary cap space. Now, understand, that's not hard money. And really, it's all in accounting in ways that you end up moving money around. But you still have to make hard decisions. You have to figure out who is deemed valuable for the money that it costs, and is there somebody out there that I can spend money on to replace them with? Or is there somebody in the draft that we can look at and say we can get and replace that guy, and we're in better shape? That's what it all really boils down to. And this year is unique because typically by now you have a rough idea where the salary cap is going to be going. They're going to know if there's going to be a good year as far as revenue, in which case most years since about 2012, the salary cap's gone up on an average of about $8 to $10 million a year. So you're going to have more money, typically, except for this year. This year, we'll be lucky if they get close to breaking even. The worst case is it goes down by $22 million. I don't think it's going to be that way because the NFL and the NFL Players Association doesn't want do not want teams to have to gut the rosters where the play on the field is affected, so forth, and basically making a second class of NFL players, veterans that get released simply because we just don't have the money to pay you and unable to get a decent salary in comparison to what's relative. So I think that even if it has to be artificial, that it's still going to be close to about 190 million, which would then give us about 30 million to work with. But we still are going to have to make hard decisions. And going through this season, one of the things I saw yesterday, and like I said, we touched on it a little bit yesterday morning, were players that you have to look at and say, are they valuable? The last 2 years, got a lot of flack because I kept saying, is Tyrone Crawford worth the contract that we had? Each of the last 2 years, we could have saved about $8 million, $8.5 million, if we had let him go. The last 2 years, you have to look at it and say, for the 18, 19 million we spent, we did not get value in return. But Tyron Crawford was one of those guys that was a team captain. They said he could do the dirty work. He can play tackle and he could play defensive end and yada, yada, yada to justify him being there. But in retrospect, we probably would have been better off with that money as opposed to what we spent on it. There could have been maybe more cost-effective options for what we got, because 2019, he missed almost all of it, having double hip surgery, coming back, and it wasn't until the last few games of the season that there was any signs of life. And here is where we are again. So yesterday, they said in this article, will the Cowboys need to part ways with Tyron Smith? And that's an intriguing thought, because if we look over here, I'm gonna get myself either one of the touch screens or the touchscreen frames, so that way I can do kind of touch screens and mark up the board here, so to speak. That's another one of those upgrades I want to do. But if you look at Tyron Smith, his cap number for this year is $14 million. If you cut him at the beginning of the season, I mean the league year, you could save $5 million, but have $8 million in dead money. So that $8.8 million is going to count against the cap. But immediately you would have $5 million more of cap space. Okay? But I'm going to pose another question to you is, should it be Tyron Smith, or should we also look at Lyle Collins instead? Now, again, if you cut him beginning of the league year, you're going to take that whole $12.2 million as a cap hit in dead money. So you'd look at that and say, why would we do that? You know, we're just erasing him off the books, but we're still paying for it, and we're getting rid of him. Well, here's the thing. Here's what we really want to look at. You can designate 2 players as June 1st cuts. This is good and it's bad. It's good because if we make them a post-June 1st cut, when you look at Tyron Smith's number, you actually save $10.5 million. If you look at Lyle Collins, you save $8.5 million, and thus making the dead money reduced because basically it's spreading it out over 2 years. Now, the problem with this is you can make that move now and designate them a June 1st cut, which lets them go ahead and get, find another team. But you can't use that salary money until June 1st. So if you're making that move and designating them as June 1st cuts, you're not going to help you as far as in free agency early on, when free agency starts on the 15th or 17th of March. So it's kind of like, yeah, we can have that money for down the road if there's the second wave of free agency or signing the rookies and things like that, but it doesn't help you immediately. Now, here's the thing that I'll say when we start talking about, do we let go of a Tyron Smith? Because, we look at it and say every year of Dak Prescott, Tyron Smith has missed 3 games, either due to injury or due to he needs rest. And of course, this year, never got out of the starting blocks. And you could look at a parallel to this is if we actually look at over here, let me blow it up a little bit. Right here, we look at similar numbers. Let me use my cursor here. This is Trent Williams. Trent Williams, the all-pro offensive tackle for the Washington football team for most of his career, who you look at the number of games throughout his career, 13 games his first year, 10 the second, 16, 15, 14. He was really durable till 2015, and then 2016 he missed 10, 2017 he missed 10, played 10. 2018 he played 13, and then he had a mysterious injury on his head, which turned out to be a cancerous tumor. He ended up being in a contract dispute with the Washington football team, and Washington tried to trade him and, to Cleveland during the season and things, and that didn't work out, and he ended up going to San Francisco. A lot of people said, in Washington, maybe that guy needs to go. He can't stay healthy. He's a distraction, and he's got all kinds of problems. Well, he goes to San Francisco this past year and gets back to being a Pro Bowler and is one of the big offensive tackle free agents for the season. Now, I can't guarantee you that Tyron Smith is going to come back like Trent Williams did. But the neck situation is something he's been dealing with for several years. And this may be a case of finally getting surgery on it, ends up clearing it out and taking care of that issue. This is going to be more of anything else. The decision on this really needs to be, what's the prognosis from the doctors? Will the surgery just buy you a little time, or is it a fix? Because ultimately, replacing him is not going to be an easy thing to do. I, for one, Oh boy, it's a tough situation. But if you're looking at this, you say Lyle Collins had one really great year at offensive tackle. He's younger, but he's got whatever this injury was that he had this past year and couldn't keep healthy. Ultimately, Tyron Smith is not a long-term solution any longer. You know that the window is closing on him if it has not closed already. And if we're looking at the draft, this is where it's key, because whoever I draft with my first pick, is not going to be a bench warmer. He's got to be a day one starter. He has to make an impact immediately. And so if we're talking about a tackle in the first round, he either needs to be starting for Tyron Smith or he needs to be starting for Lyle Collins. But you can't take a first-round pick and have him on the bench. So in retrospect, one or the other of these guys need to go. In the end, I may say that I roll the dice on Tyron Smith one more time and I get a tackle. But that's me. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. Should it be Lyle Collins or should it be Tyron Smith? If it's neither, I still might draft a tackle and put him on the left side and move Lyle Collins to guard. That's me. Or I let Lyle Collins go and I have Connor McGovern maybe starting at guard, and I have Connor Williams as a swing tackle. But then again, that's just me. What do I know? But these are all things that the Dallas Cowboys are going to need to decide between now and the beginning of March. All right, y'all. Hope you guys have a great Friday. It's finally freaking Friday. We have our live stream, of course, every Monday and Friday night at 9 o'clock Eastern. Hope you guys join in. We always have a great time and have great discussions. We'll have my man DMV Dallas Cowboys with his next player. He's looking at one of the cornerbacks that he literally says is the best cornerback in football, who I believe liked his comments. We'll be definitely talking about that and anything else that pops up with the Dallas Cowboys. I will see you guys later.